Okay, we're live, and I'm going to start out by reading something here. This came through my news aggregator. It says it's from Fox News, maybe, but anyway, I'm just going to read this. Okay, so current events. President Biden invoked a Cold War era law in a surprising move on Friday, that would be yesterday, to pour taxpayer funds into domestic manufacturing of electric heat pumps. Remember that word. And an alternative to gas-powered residential furnaces. Actually, heat pumps are an alternative to a lot of things, okay? So keep that thought in mind. Domestic manufacturing, heat pumps. Those two data points, that's critical. I'll get to that in a moment. In a joint announcement with the White House, the Department of Energy, DOE, said the federal government would award a historic $169 million seed money for 9 projects across 15 sites nationwide in an effort to accelerate electric heat pump manufacturing. America doesn't manufacture much. I don't think we manufacture heat pumps at all. That's definitely a commodity. Heat pumps are found in everything practically. Refrigerators, air conditioning, heating, water heaters. In fact, more on that in a moment. But I don't think we make any of them. The significant level of funding was made possible after Biden utilized the 1950 Defense Production Act, or DPA, to increase domestic production of green energy technologies. Defense Production Act, 1950. So that was the act that would make it possible for the president to unilaterally, as commander in chief, okay, so leader of the free world, to determine that our domestic industries were not manufacturing a key element necessary for defense. It's called the Defense Production Act. We need something for defense, but we are not producing it domestically in the country. We're importing it. We're buying it off the global market. We're not producing it. And if it's an element of response to a national emergency or a threat like war, okay, and we're not producing it domestically, we have to get on that. Now, normally the DPA would be used to enhance the creation of, say, bombs or ammunition or MREs for soldiers, or even uniforms for soldiers, helmets, uh, armored vehicles, tires for armored vehicles, water pumps for armored vehicles, engines. Okay, it's something that maybe we're buying from the Koreans or buying from the Chinese or buying from the Germans or buying from the British, but it's critical to our national defense. So we're going to produce it domestically so we have some measure of control over something that's critical to our national defense. This is Defense Production Act. All right. Moving on. This is a quote from Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm, who I've never heard of. Getting more American-made electric heat pumps on the market will help families and businesses save money with efficient heating and cooling technology, said the secretary. These investments will create thousands of high-quality, good-paying manufacturing jobs and strengthen America's energy supply chain while creating healthier indoor spaces through homegrown clean energy technologies. That's not why they're doing it. That's not why they're doing this. I understand why she said all that blather. That's all it is blather. But that's not why they're doing this. I'll explain in a moment. Continuing the quote, today's Defense Production Act funds for heat pump manufacturing show that President Biden is treating climate change, they said it, as the crisis it is. Crisis. Defense. All right. Added John Podesta, the White House clean energy czar. Quote, these awards will grow domestic manufacturing, create good paying jobs, and boost American competitiveness in industries of the future. I'm just scanning here forward, see if there's anything useful here. Yeah. Okay. They're not saying the thing. I'm giving them some time here to say the thing. Now, this is a Fox News article. They never say the thing. All right. They never. And all of this is a hoax. And the part of it that's not a hoax is the fault of the Chinese. Okay. That's their line. But let's see if anybody comes out and says the thing. Okay. Uh, these are the companies getting the money: Copeland, Honeywell International, Mitsubishi Electric, and York International Corporation, all of which are billion-dollar multinational corporations. The projects will advance manufacturing of industrial, commercial, and residential heat pump technology. Okay, they didn't say the thing. I will now say the thing. I know exactly what this is about. What is a heat pump? Well, it's exactly what the name implies. A heat pump pumps heat, which is kind of interesting, right? You're used to pumps pumping water, hydraulic fluid, I don't know, air. You can have air pumps, right? A heat pump. Now, how do you pump heat? Heat isn't a thing, right? Heat is not a thing. Heat is a quality of matter. You can have a hot iron. You can have a hot day. You can have a hot asphalt. You can have a hot water bottle. You can have hot water in your hot water heater, right? But how do you pump heat? You can pump the hot water around, but how do you pump the heat? And how do you leave the water in place and pump the heat? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, heat pumps actually do that. Heat pumps do that. I absolutely refuse to go into the physics of phase changes in matter, and I'm not going to talk about how a heat pump works on a physical level. I'm just going to say it pumps heat. Now, everybody is familiar with one type of heat pump. It's a very limited application of the heat pump technology, but it is a heat pump, and so it counts. That's what we colloquially call air conditioning. I say colloquially. Air conditioning is a big subject. Really, anything that changes the qualities of the air in your home, and that's the only thing we care about, right? Anything that changes the quality of the air in your home is conditioning the air. It's air conditioning. It's making it more suitable for human occupancy of that house or that home or that business or that whatever. We use air conditioning to freeze food and preserve food in refrigerators and freezers. Okay. The way an air conditioner works is it pumps the heat. It pumps it from the place where you don't want it, say on a summer day in your house. You don't want the heat in your house. You would rather the heat be outside. So what the heat pump does is it pumps the heat outside. It takes the heat outside the house. And by reducing the amount of heat inside the house, what you feel is cooler. And so air conditioning is associated with cooling. Do you have an air conditioner? Oh, yeah. Oh, so you're really cool today. Oh, yeah, we're running our air conditioner. It's really keeping the house cool. And, we installed the air conditioner, when we built the house and we've got ducts inside the house and the cool air comes out and we love it. It really keeps the house cool. All right. It's not keeping the house cool. It's pumping the heat out. It's a heat pump. That's what it is. It's a heat pump. Now, heat pumps work in both directions. Haha. Yes. Now, your air conditioner, your Carrier air conditioner, whatever it is, it only does the one thing. It pumps the heat in one direction from inside the house or the room or the garage or wherever, or your car, and it pumps it outside where you're not occupying. Now, the outside gets hotter, but it's generally not a big deal. The winds blow the heat away and no one cares. But it can also pump the heat into the house. It can do that. And you can even have two types of air conditioners sitting right next to each other. One which pumps the heat out of the house into the environment, and another that you run at a different time of the year that takes the heat from the environment, pumps it into your house. You can have two heat pumps sitting side by each. But that's not how they do it. They make one unit that is called a heat pump, and it can work either direction. It can either pump the heat from the inside of the house to the outside, or it can pump the heat from the outside of the house into the inside, and we call that cooling and heating, respectively. Right? That's a heat pump, and it's not introducing anything else into your house. It's not even introducing air. It's not like a gas, it's not like it's okay. It is heating air, but it's not doing it with fossil fuels. It's doing it with electricity, and it's not bringing air into the house. It's keeping the air in the house, and it's conditioning the air in the house, making it hotter or making it cooler. and that's what you feel. But what it's doing is it's moving heat around. That's all it's moving. It's not moving cool around. It doesn't make cold air. That's what a block of ice would do, would make cold air. What a heat pump does is it moves hot. It moves heat around. So this is a really cool technology. Um, for cooling, it can't be beat. The alternatives for cooling your house are, well, a block of ice. Well, that's not going to work because you have to haul ice around. It melts, it makes a mess. We used to have ice boxes in our kitchens, before we had refrigerators using heat pumps. Aha, there you go. They had to have a block of ice, and a block of ice would cool your food by cooling the air. Um, so that was the first implementation of heat pumps, was to cool a space like the inside of your refrigerator or the inside of your home. It's just a bigger unit of the same thing. Your home is like the inside of your refrigerator. It just pumps the heat out. Now, they didn't make heat pumps for heating your home because it turned out that other ways of heating your home are simply more economical or cheaper or more traditional. Um, People used to heat their home with wood, adopted coal. It's the same technology, right? You have your fireplace or your cast iron stove, and instead of putting wood in it, you put coal in it. So required no upgrades to your heating infrastructure at all. And then later on, when that was inconvenient and cold, you get your fingers dirty and all, and there's particulates you have to breathe and you get sick. Um, then they went to things like uh, fuel, heating oil, I think is what it's called. I'm too young for that. But heating oil, which we deliver to your home in the fall, say, they would fill up the tank in your basement, that had the heating oil, and then you would burn the heating oil, and the flame would heat a volume of air. Of course, they keep them separate because you can't breathe the fumes from the combustion. It'll kill you, carbon monoxide. But they bring in the cold air from your house and they output it as hot air, and they have a fan in there, it blows the air around, and use heating oil to heat the air in your house, and then the exhaust goes up the chimney. And then, because heating oil had to be delivered on a truck, they decided, no, let's use town gas. We'll have gas lines running in the streets, and we'll hook up your house with your own service, and we'll use town gas or natural gas or methane or whatever they're calling it in your area, and we'll continue to use fire to heat, to continue this cultural affinity for heating with fire. Started out with wood, and then it went to coal, and then it went to heating oil, and then it went to natural gas. And so we just kind of kept doing this because we're dumb. We're dumb. And for a long time, electricity was not common. It was easier in some places to deliver heating oil to your house than electricity. Your house kind of has to be made in advance to use electricity. You need all these outlets, and you need a service. And a long time ago, the service drops were really puny because there were no electrical appliances available. It was mostly just Edison lights, and maybe a few a radio, and then later a TV and a couple of countertop appliances, but that was about it. Later, as electric appliances became more valuable and consume more electricity, then you started getting, dishwashers, clothes washers, dryers. People used to hang their clothes out on the line, let it dry even if it took a couple of days, or hang it all over the house in the winter, right? All your clothes hanging in the living room trying to dry. Well, now we have dryers, and 220 dryers using a lot of electricity, huge kilowatt consumption, and so the service drops to houses became more robust. So we heated ourselves with fire for a long time, just like cavemen did, right? Heated ourselves with fire because it was all we really knew. And then later on, someone pointed out, this heat pump thing, it's electric. Electricity is now everywhere. We could just kind of reverse that process of pumping heat. Let's pump heat from the outside to the inside. Now, you might say, okay, that makes sense for cooling a house. It's hot on the inside. You pump it to the outside. The outside's already hot. You don't care. It blows away on the wind. But how are you going to heat your house in the winter when there's no heat outside? How are you going to pump heat into your house when the outside is freezing, snowing? There's icicles dangling from the eaves, and you're going to pump heat into the house. How so? Well, it turns out heat pumps can pump heat down to about, some of them minus 60 degrees Celsius, 100 degrees Celsius. Cold like you can't believe. It's cold to you, but it's not cold to the heat pump. The heat pump can go out there in the environment, Sample the environment, gather some heat, pump it into your house. And it's more efficient when it's not freezing cold, but it doesn't matter. There's heat out there. As far as the heat pump is concerned, it can find it, and it's able to manage that, and it pumps it into your house. So these things are really efficient. They are electricity. They are not, fuel oil and natural gas, and your house was built to use natural gas or fuel oil, and you have to re-engineer your house and blah blah blah. And then, of course, electricity is more expensive than natural gas. It kind of has been traditionally, um, but that could be changed, right? We could have regulations that change that situation. Also, we aren't really putting the proper cost on burning natural gas. And what is the proper cost on burning natural gas? Well, it's the infrastructure to deliver it to your home. Someone had to bury those pipes, and someone had to bring it in, and there's a meter out there that has to be maintained, and someone has to come read the meter, and all these other things cost money. Therefore, your natural gas has a price point. But the actual cost of burning natural gas is global heating. That's the real cost. Nobody's paying that. If you had to pay that, if you had to pay to offset the damage, your natural gas heating, cooking, water heating, what else? I don't know. Actually caused. If you had to pay for the damage that your consumption of a fossil fuel caused, then the price of your natural gas would probably be 10 times more than it is, maybe even 100 times. Because the damage that we are causing by burning fossil fuels is apocalyptic. And now the question is, who's going to pay for the apocalypse? So back to the story. Look what Biden is doing. He is tacitly, this is now basically a conversation that somebody had with Joe Biden, tacitly admitting that we have to turn the corner. We have to get off of fossil fuels. And he's looking, and this is now a national security problem. I mean, yes, I've known that for a decade. We are now at a national security issue. National security. We may not survive as a nation. There may not be any nations that survive as a nation. We may have entirely new nations created as a result of global heating that would be unrecognizable today, based on people who accepted the challenge of survival. And those people now have the opportunity / responsibility to create new nations, new civilizations, because we're done. We're done, people. We're done. All right, we're done. This whole thing is done. It's just done. I don't have to prove that to you. I am here bearing witness. I am bearing witness. I'm here to tell you it's done. And guess who agrees with me? Joseph Robinette Biden. He agrees, because he invoked the Defense Production Act, intended to make rapid changes to our production of bullets and bombs and tanks and rubber tires and meals ready to eat and helmets and guns. Okay, the Defense Production Act, to bring domestic production, not of helmets and bullets and bombs, but of heat pumps. And we are going to need billions. Yes, billions. Maybe not. Okay. Single figure billions of heat pumps. Single billion. So, what do we need them for? First of all, they run on electricity. So, the actual carbon emissions associated with running the thing, it's not the thing. Unlike your natural gas powered hot water heater, the carbon emission is going out the stack of your hot water heater. It's right there in your house. It goes out the stack. If it doesn't go out the stack and it gets in your house, it'll probably asphyxiate you eventually. Also, when you're cooking on your natural gas powered cooktop, the CO2 and the water vapor is accumulating in your house. You have a vent right above to pull all that stuff out. Okay. Your house produces CO2 because you're consuming a fossil fuel in your house. If you go with heat pumps for all those things and an electric cooktop, then your house is not producing CO2. It's just not. It isn't. Now, now, the wise among you will say, aha, yes, well, that is technically true. But in reality, you don't know where your electricity is coming from. What if it's coming from a coal-fired power plant? Aha, I have you. What if it's coming from a gas-fired power plant? Aha, aha. What if it's coming from a nuclear power plant? You didn't build that without fossil fuels. Aha, aha, aha. Okay, all true. All true. This is true. But this is not about accounting. Maybe a little bit. It's not entirely about accounting. If it was just about accounting, then it wouldn't be invoked. It wouldn't be promoted by the Defense Production Act. It's about survival. It's about surviving. Watch what happens. Pay attention now. I operate entirely on the basis that we have to end our reliance on fossil fuels, period. Full stop. Not net zero, not carbon neutral, not any of that other accounting malarkey. Zero. No consumption of fossil fuels. That's the number we're looking for. Zero. Okay? Assuming we do that, we will do it for self-defense. Okay? Not because it's what Jesus would do. Not because it's what is good for the children even. We do it for self-preservation. Therefore, getting us off of fossil fuels, surviving global heating is now an existential threat. We have to survive this. And the way we survive this is getting ourselves off of fossil fuels. The other thing we have to do is just deal with the global heating. Oh, and this is going to seem ironic. Do I have to explain this? I guess I have to explain this. I'm not going to explain this right now. We have to deal with global heating, which gives us heat, and which also, surprise, surprise, gives us freezing. Texas practically froze solid in 2019, I think it was. Wasn't that long ago, folks. They still wake up at night having nightmares about that. You get both. And you can get both within 2 weeks of each other. And it can seesaw back and forth between the two. You can be freezing one day and boiling the next, and then back to freezing again. I'm not going to explain that. It's all global heating, okay? I can throw out there Arctic amplification. I can throw out there the slowing of the jet stream. I can throw out there the wavy patterns in the polar vortex. I can throw out there that Arctic amplification is causing changes in wind patterns that are slowing the jet stream. Whatever. I mean, I'm going to well, I just did it, but I'm not going to elaborate on any of that stuff. You're just going to have to figure it out. Google is your friend, okay? Deal with it. You get heating like you can't stand, and you get freezing like you can't believe, and you get them back to back. And this is where the heat pump comes in. The heat pump is electric. You're not relying on fossil fuels to heat yourself, but it can also cool you. So you have one unit, it gets installed. The ducting is all the same. It's just sitting there. And you set your thermostats, whatever range makes sense. And then sometimes that unit is cooling your house using electricity. And sometimes that unit is heating your house using electricity. And the nice thing about electricity is we can decide what the carbon footprint is of electricity. We can do that. We can do that. Now, if you want to make your own electricity, you can do that. You can put solar panels on your house. You can have batteries installed in your garage to store energy, and you can have heating and cooling from your own electricity. But, excuse me, sir, while that is technically correct, those solar panels were manufactured in China using coal, natural gas, and shipped here on a container ship running on bunker oil. And the carbon, the embodied carbon of those panels and those things. Okay, stop right there. Yeah, I know all that. Do you want the electricity or not? Do you? Because right now, most of, say, California's electricity is generated by, wait for it, fossil fuels. So if someone comes along and says fossil fuels, yeah, that was a bad idea, we're going to stop that, then you're not going to have electricity. Do you want electricity? I mean, trust me, when there isn't any, you're going to be glad you had some. And you're going to be really glad that you have, well, plenty of electricity for daily things, cooking, heating, water. And your neighbors who don't have any electricity are going to be saying, hey, could you throw me an extension cord? And you're going to have a decision to make. I don't know. Can I afford that? Do I have enough batteries to supply these fools with electricity for whatever they're doing? Because, someone cut off the natural gas. Why'd they do that? Because of global heating, because we're all going to die, because we're on a war footing, because if we don't do this now, we're going to have an uninhabitable planet. That's why they do it. Do I have to explain this to you? I guess I have to explain this to you. Well, I'm not going to. Figure it out, buckwheat. Or don't figure it out. I mean, do I care? Joe Biden cared. Someone got to Joe Biden. And he's using the Defense Production Act to put seed money into a project to bring back to the country the manufacturing of something that's absolutely essential to our survival of our democracy, of our nation, of our sovereign nation. It's right there with bullets and bombs and jeeps and tires and engines and helmets and MREs and uniforms and fighter jets and AIM missiles and all this stuff, like heat pumps. Imagine that. Imagine that. Heat pumps, of all the things. How's that supposed to make a difference in, defending the country? Heat pumps, really? Interesting. Well, bringing domestic manufacturing back to the country. Where are heat pumps made? I don't know. Germany, South Korea. Where'd you buy your last refrigerator? Where'd you buy your last freezer? Okay, go look on the label. Where was it made? China? The Philippines? I don't know. It wasn't made here. Guarantee you that. Fact. It wasn't made here. And yet heat pumps are going to be critical to the defense of the interests of the country. Joe Biden just signed it. He just signed it. He said, yeah, you explain it to me. Global heating. Okay. And we're going to have freezing too. Okay. I don't understand that, but okay. You're telling me, you're my science advisor. You're telling me that we need to onshore production of certain critical technologies. And one of those is heat pumps. I don't even know what that is. I'm the president of the United States. I can't tell you what a heat pump is, but you're telling me that it's critical. We have to start making our own domestic heat pumps for heating water, heating spaces, cooling spaces, cooling refrigerators. We're not going to be able to get these things from Korea. Why? Because Korea will be a nuclear wasteland because of North Korea, and those people are fucking insane. And we won't get our refrigerators and freezers and air conditioning from Taiwan. Why? Because there'll be another radiation hot zone, and we won't be getting any of this stuff from Japan. Why? Because they're collapsing domestically, and we won't be getting it from Germany because Europe is in a funk, and they're probably going to become deindustrialized over the next 5 years. So do we want these things or do we not? And, ramping up an entire domestic production effort to make heat pumps, which are not complicated, people. I mean, seriously, they're just not. You've got one in your refrigerator. You didn't even know that, all right? And when your refrigerator breaks down, we throw it away. We don't even pull it out of there and use it for something else. It's not even like an engine in a car. People recycle engines from cars. They don't recycle heat pumps from refrigerators. They're simple, they're cheap, they're disposable, and we don't make them. How is that even possible? This is critical technology for surviving global heating. Absolutely critical. And when you couple it with your own solar panels on your home or in your community, somewhere nearby, and your own batteries, your own either residential storage or community batteries, then you've got a narrative. You can survive the heat. And they're going to push heat pumps into every corner of this country. They're going to manufacture them domestically, and just like the Rural Electrification Act back in the Stone Age, back in the Great Depression, and earlier, they're going to push this technology out to every corner of the country, every poor community, every urban slum, every corner of the country is going to have access to cheap, free heat pumps, because it's like distributing ammunition and guns during wartime. Everybody gets it. You want it? You want to fight this? You want to survive this? Well, then here's your gun. Here's your ammunition. We're at war. So go out there and do your best. And here we are, global heating. We're at war, and we're going to lose. And but we want to survive. So, do you want to survive? You want a heat pump? Okay, we'll fix you up with a heat pump. We'll install it. You'll have heating and cooling, at least in one room of your house. That's all we can do. Then we'll do that. We will do that. One room in your house will have a small, efficient, domestically manufactured right here in the good old USA. The little flag will be right there on the front, made in the USA. Okay, and we'll install that in your house for free. We'll subsidize your electricity, and you'll survive. You'll survive. Because this particular enemy, if you want to call it that, isn't going to care if you've got bullets in an AR-15. If we were being invaded by, some foreign country, then maybe that would make sense. But we're not. We're being attacked. We're being threatened by global heating. We're being affected by heat. Heat. The planet's getting hot. Can't stand it. Can't live here. It's uninhabitable. Of course, then you can't grow crops, and you can't have, running water, and the electric grid starts to sag and brown out and black out. There's a lot of problems we're going to have with heat. And adding all these extra heat pumps to use electricity is, of course, going to mean that there's going to be more demands on the grid. And the grid is already, in many places, including here in California, the grid is already under pretty significant loads, and pushing heat pumps out into every slum and corner of California so that people don't die. Okay, let's just talk about not having death. How's that sound? No dying. No dying because of the heat, and no dying because of the freezing. Okay, we're just going to start with that, and then we'll see where we can go from there. So we'll start with no death due to global heating, and then we'll see what happens. Well, what happens, of course, is the grid goes down. So the next shoe to drop, and this will be, he might do this. Maybe he already has. Goes back to the DPA, signs a presidential requirement, seed money to create manufacturing centers and proofs of concept and manufacturing of solar panels. Sign again. Manufacturing of batteries. Maybe only community batteries because they're easier to manage. So you have a battery that serves, an entire city block or an entire suburban block, whatever. And everybody's solar feeds into it, and as they need it, they pull from it, and it's just kind of there, and it's kind of invisible. That'd be nice, right? Having backup power in your neighborhood, right? A big battery. It's about the size of what do you want to call it? Like a shipping container, right? What are they? They're 20 feet long and 6 feet high and about the same wide, right? A shipping container sits on a concrete slab somewhere in your neighborhood, or it sits in a vault underground. That works too. And you charge it with your own summertime electric production, and then it's all pumped up. And come wintertime, you've got some extra capacity. So maybe back to the DPA. We're going to sign a presidential directive. We're going to onshore battery manufacturing. And we're going to make sure that communities have access to storage, electric storage, along with their solar panels. Okay, they can do that. I think that's where all this is headed. We're going on a war footing, people. How's that sound? We're on a war footing. We're on a war footing. The president is invoking the DPA. We're on a war footing. I never thought I'd live to see the day. What's the enemy? Now, I'm going to be a little careful here. The enemy is global heating. The enemy is global heating. Well, global heating is not a person. It's not even a thing. It's a state of matter. It's heat. Yes, we're going to make heat pumps. And we're going to make solar panels. We're going to make batteries. And we're going to pump heat every goddamn way it needs to go. Okay, we're going to work the heat. We're going to work it, baby. Work that heat. Okay, we're going to do that. But the heat is not the enemy. Oh, well, yes, of course. Carbon dioxide is the enemy. No, carbon dioxide can't be the enemy either. Well, I guess not. But, but those energy companies, oh, Lordy, let's go protest those people, string those CEOs up on a lamp pole, and those energy companies. Well, no, they'll tell you right away. They're just filling a need. You wanted it. You wanted the gasoline. You wanted the natural gas for your electricity, for your whatever you're using electricity for, which now you need a lot more of. And they don't feel bad about that. They just sold into a market. They sold into a demand. So who's the enemy here? Who are you going to go after with your bullets and your AR-15? And you're going to go up there and you're going to take them on. You're going to clean this country up, and we're going to get rid of this riffraff. And they invaded our country and they made global heating. And who are these people? And what are we going to do? We're going to deport them? Or are we going to throw them all in prison, send them all to Auschwitz? What are we going to do with these people that made this global heating? Well, it's you and your neighbor over there, and the guy driving in front of your house on the street, and the place you go to for your job, that you get your little token that you can exchange for a loaf of bread, and the airlines that are moving people all over the world, and the shipping companies that are shipping all the crap around the planet, including over the oceans and by the air and all the freeways. Yeah, that's the enemy. Your vaunted, lovely, forever eternal, God-blessed global economic system. All your consumerism, all your travel, all your driving, all your flying, all your moving of goods, all your moving of money, all the jobs, all this, all that stuff. Everything 100% of everything you can name, touch, think about, everything you've ever thought about, every thought you've ever had in your entire life is the enemy. Every thought you ever had is the enemy. So now we got to manage the heat, because we're not going to there's no way we can stop this. We're going to manage the heat. We don't need bullets. We don't need guns. We don't need MREs. We don't need jeeps and tanks and armored personnel carriers. We need heat pumps. We need heat pumps. Of all the fucking things, we need heat pumps. Explain this shit to me. Sit me down. Explain this to me. How did this happen? Oh, wait, I know how that happened. It was right here the whole entire time. All the things you thought you had to have. All the things that were sacred and eternal that you needed to get out of the bed in the morning and go to your daily job and come back and watch The Simpsons all night. Simpsons episodes all night. That right here is what gave us global heating. That's the enemy. And we're going to fight the enemy with heat pumps. Okay, fine. It's a kind of capitulation. It's a kind of cop out, right? It's a kind of, well, we can't really do anything about this. It would upset the children, scare the horses. So I guess we just have to deal with global heating, because we certainly can't stop people from driving and flying and shipping goods all over the planet and moving money around willy-nilly and having a job so they can get the little token that they can buy a loaf of bread. We can't stop any of that. Good heavens, no, we can't possibly stop any of that. We can't recognize that as the enemy. So we're just going to have to pump heat. We'll just pump heat with electricity that we probably don't have, but we can work on that too. We'll do another DPA for solar panels. Oh, and yeah, it's intermittent. So we'll do another DPA for batteries. Everybody gets a battery. Every child gets a battery. And between the batteries and the solar panels and the heat pumps, we'll manage the heat until the end of the planet. We'll manage the heat until probably the asphalt melts. We'll manage the heat, and then the asphalt will melt, and the cars will get stuck in the asphalt, and they can't go anywhere. And the people get out of the car, they get stuck in the asphalt because it's melted, and they sit there and they die. They fall over on their hands and knees and they cook and they die. And so I guess that's one way we solve the problem. We just let it get so hot that everybody dies who's outside. And you can be inside and have your heat pump, and we'll pump the heat out into the already scorching hot environment. And we never really addressed the problem. The enemy, because the enemy was us, and we couldn't go up against us. You couldn't do it. But as of this morning, as of technically Friday, sometime Friday, probably the end of the day when no one was watching, we are on a war footing. But we'll never talk about the real enemy. We're going to act like heat is the enemy. We're going to pump heat around you, not in my house, not in my sovereign domain. You have to be outside. We're going to pump the heat out. And we're not going to stop driving, and we're not going to stop flying, and we're not going to stop anything else. And everybody will want air conditioning in their car, heat pump. And everybody will want air conditioning in the basement garage, another heat pump or 12. And everybody will want air conditioning in the mall and in the strip mall. And you'll have to go from your air conditioned house to your air conditioned garage, no joke, to your air conditioned car, to your air conditioned, completely enclosed shopping experience. You won't go to Costco and park 300 feet away in the parking lot and walk to Costco in 140 degrees Fahrenheit. You're not going to do that, because if you tried to do that, you die. And after a bunch of people have died trying to do that, then Costco is going to completely enclose their parking lot. They're going to go out there and a big pole barn over their parking lot. They're going to put industrial grade air conditioners on top of that, and they're going to air condition the parking lot so that you can drive through. Somehow there'll be like an airlock or something. You'll drive through and you'll park in the air conditioned parking lot, completely enclosed, and you'll walk into Costco, which is air conditioned, and then you walk out into your air conditioned car and you go to your air conditioned garage, into your air conditioned house, and it's all heat pumps, and they're all domestically produced. So we didn't have to worry about the Chinese or the Taiwanese or the South Koreans or the Germans or the French or the Englishmen or anyone else to provide us with heat pumps. We made them domestically, and we're thanking old President Biden back in the day signed that DPA and got us on the glide path to making our own heat pumps. Good for him. Oh, and then that's where the solar panels came from, and that's where the community battery came from. And we got our own electricity, we got our own battery for storage, we've got our own heat pumps, and Costco put their entire parking lot under a pole barn that's air conditioned. Okay, I guess. More later, I guess. I have to get over this first.